seat, Paul. WeMaple, AB Common Mark.
James? Stop stomping around up there for a sec, okay? Okay. Where did the Eavor story begin? Well, it's quite the story. So my background prior to this was iBanking. I had a mentor early in my career. Really, guy changed my life. He's quite a bit older than me, and he was running his own small iBank. He said, any jackass can raise money. Anybody can convince somebody to part with some dollars and invest in something. But if you want to make a career at that, you have to not blow them up all the time. You can't put them into something and then the thing always blow up. I began learning about companies and businesses. I mean, you hear everything. Crazy, mad scientist idea that comes in the door. All different industries, all sorts of things. But basically what I figured out, I guess that I was pretty good at doing, was helping the mad scientist with the good idea turn it into a business. Over time of helping build a lot of companies, I realized I wasn't an iBanker. I never really have been. I realized I was a business development person. One day, I had some of my own ideas. And this Eavor thing was one of them. Oil and gas companies have all these wells, and some are producing, and eventually over time, a lot of them aren't. You have to have a certain amount of asset value relative to your liability value. So if you have a well that's stopped producing, it's a liability. All it is one day you're gonna have to spend money to clean it up. Maybe you could take this liability and you could do something with it. Not just remove it from the balance sheet, remove it from the liability side, but perhaps even transfer it over to the asset side. I got on the interweb and looked up, could you use a well, an existing well, for a geothermal purpose? And I would imagine thousands of people have walked this same path that I was walking and looking down, and the answer was pretty quickly, clearly, no, it's not gonna work. I had a very simple idea to drill one down well and drill down another well and then go horizontal and connect them in the middle. Bury a pipe at surface and create a loop. I thought to myself, the one well down in a horizontal well at depth where it's hot, and then coming back up, you'd have all that space would be freed up, you'd have more space for the overall flow. You know, I could read on Wikipedia what a thermal siphon was. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a thermodynamics expert by any means, but I can do math and I can read a formula and figure it out. One of the first things I did is I reached out to my network of people. And the vast majority said that it was a stupid idea, it would cost too much, it would not be possible. It certainly couldn't be me that solved that problem. Which, for someone like me, that's gasoline on my fire. And I thought, 25 years ago, when this was disqualified by a really smart engineer as a way of doing it, this technology wasn't there. And maybe this technology made it technically possible to close the loop like this, or maybe it made it economic, or maybe it hopefully made it both. And I really wasn't in a position to know. So I called John Redfern.
And his big idea was, can you do closed loop geothermal? Or can we do something with all these abandoned well sites? Surely geothermal's, the ideal solution. Paul, again, as I always explain it, unencumbered by technical knowledge, said, why don't we just, reconnect two wells? We drill down, drill horizontally, connect them, connect it with a pipeline at surface, and then it could flow easier.
He really didn't like the geothermal one. He thought it was not going to work. I think the quote might be that it was maybe the dumbest idea he'd ever heard.
That's a very dumb idea, but it's hopelessly uneconomic. But let's ask someone about it. So we asked Matt Tays about it, And Matt said, you're right, that's a dumb idea, but not as dumb as you think.
The original idea was pretty crazy, but we basically shared this vision of trying to make geothermal scalable, and that vision's never changed since the first couple of months.
We asked Janine and Matt if they would quit their jobs and work for nothing and come and do this with us. And
this person that I don't know very well with this crazy idea with no money to pay me, oh sure, I'm going to say yes for sure. I'd do my oil and gas day job, and then I'd put my kids to bed, and then we'd go to work for the predecessor company to Eavor, which was named Alberta Geothermal Corporation at that time. And so we did that for, I don't know, 8 months or 12 months before raising any money.
Janine had a way of kind of pointing out that the type of data and information that we would need to discover geologically was not only easy to gather, but it was somewhat readily available all over the world.
The concept was so elegantly simple of, we're just drilling a big heat exchanger in the ground and there's heat wherever you go. But there are a lot of technical complexities that come with that. And so I was interested in the science behind it. I also, being in the oil and gas industry, I've always been passionate about how we can do things better. I think, there is a role for oil and gas in the short-term energy stack. And I was always interested in how we can do that better and more efficient and more environmentally friendly.
I think we started a company with like $40,000 of an actual investment, and everything else was bootstrapped. What didn't come out of Paul and I's pocket came out of investors who were able to convince that this was a thing to do.
So you're through your friends and family and your ex-friends and family, and you need that angel investor, and we got one.
One person at a time, we sort of convinced him to reevaluate it, to rethink it.
$1 million or $2 million at the very beginning from an angel like that, well, that doubled or tripled the amount of money that we had raised to that point. And it made us, but it also gave us, certainly me, and I'm sure everybody else, it gave us that sense of obligation now.
Geothermal was such a stagnant industry. People had looked at closed loop years before when it wasn't economic and had written it off and didn't want to re-look at it. And so they had focused on traditional geothermal. In the States, they always thought the future was fracking. We didn't need either of them. And that pissed people off.
At the early days, there was almost nobody that believed in what we were trying to get done.
There's people writing papers and social media posts and guaranteeing that closed-loop geothermal will never work, putting their scientific reputations on the line to say that it won't do that.
People thought that our work was fraudulent and, corrupted, and a lot of these came from experts, people that have very well-respected voices, 20, 30 years of experience in the field, saying, hey, it's impossible.
People would push back on us and tell us, this isn't the right way to do it, or the proper way to do it is this, the oil and gas way to do it is this. I'd say, we're not oil and gas. And they'd say, well, you're gonna have to be, because you can't just be something new. You gotta be something that everybody else has thought of. And I just thought, no, we don't. We, in fact, need to hold tightly to doing it our way.
Some of that is due to the fact that they were looking at single YouTube designs or something that you couldn't really leverage and get a lot of the conductive heating out of the ground. And I realized, this doesn't really exist yet, and that it is a bit of a blue ocean strategy.
It was a great barrier to entry, No one else was working on this because they thought it was stupid.
Rather than us going out and telling everybody, no, you're wrong and we're right and don't say bad things about us, we let it happen because we were still patenting and we were still putting our protections, real protections in place, and we were still partnering. So when we had talked to big investors, they would get behind the scenes and they would see the technical information and we would show it to them. That was their advantage. The world thought we were crazy and this was not going to work, but the insiders knew that it would. On paper, we had the patents or the technology. We needed to demonstrate it. For as little money as possible, demonstrate the technology.
What is an Everloop?
Everloop is a subsurface heat exchanger, a radiator that we put in the ground. Then we circulate a fluid. It goes down an inlet well and out the outlet well, and it just circulates on thermosiphon, so there's no pump required. And it picks up heat from the earth through conductive heating. So that's what makes it different from every other type of geothermal. What we were doing is building a subsurface pipe network and sealing it off from the rock and just circulating the fluid through. The trick to make it economic is the hard part. And to do that and to make it, affordable energy for people, we've had to invent a lot of different technologies along the way. Everything from how we construct it, how we operate it, how we design it, the drilling technology involved, the surface technology that converts heat to power, all of this stuff we've worked on.
We were trying to figure out what a proof of concept would look like. And so trying to just in Alberta or Saskatchewan, somewhere in Canada, get this off the ground. So that required figuring out like what rocks are going to be strong enough to withstand this, what kind of data can we use, what orientations can we drill these wells, does this technology of magnetic ranging really actually work? Can you collide wells? And I'll be perfectly honest with you, back then, I'd never drilled a horizontal well. That wasn't what I did. The day that Bailey flipped the switch on the pilot and it circulated and it worked, I said to my colleague, it worked, of course it worked, it's physics, right?
We proved that it could work. It cost way less than what people thought it would do. And our main new storyline for the Series A investors, for these new venture capital investors, was that we would improve.
Very good. I love your, can I see that?
Oh, yeah. Gotta let them know how you feel about them,
100%. What is Paul like to work with?
Paul is a dreamer. He's a visionary. I mean, he's going to hate that I said that.
On his business card, he puts storyteller. And I think that's true. Like, that guy can spin any story to make it fun.
Paul, I think it's entirely appropriate. Paul should have his own beer. I mean, he's a minor celebrity in town. He's well known for his stories.
And the thing about his stories is, like, I think they're all authentic and real. Like, they sound like someone's exaggerating, like they're too insane to be true, but they actually are. So that's why I think he's got that Honest Paul IPA.
He was definitely, if you read on the side of the bottle, he was definitely a teller of tall tales. But in this case, his tall tale is a $500 million one, because that's how much money it's raised.
We got really low in capital at one point. You can see your demise coming. John and I kind of saddled up. I remember he was in LA and I was in Calgary, and we were going to fly to Japan, and we were going to meet there. And I called John. He was at the airport, and I said, John, we need to come back with this money, a commitment for it.
The one in Japan there was lots of stories associated with that. Sort of been hung up on negotiations on this particular aspect of how we're going to close things. And we had an idea we were going to do as a convertible promissory note. And so we went to go with this guy who was our main contact to visit his boss, who was going to make the big decision.
He said, we're here to talk about direction. And if we can agree on direction, then we'll work out the details.
Before we were even on the appetizers, he goes, so I need this. How are you going to solve it? We say, well, we're going to use a convertible promissory note, and it's going to work like this. He goes, great. Let's just have fun then. We're going to eat. These guys will sort out the rest of the contract later. And we had a very nice meal and went out and had some friendly drinking well into the night. And that was the deal. It took all of like 3 seconds. There was no posturing, no anything else. Just like, yeah, that's good.
It's the shortest meeting I've ever been in my life. We
We were weeks away from the end of the runway, and I think the most interesting thing about that time is that our employees knew it, and they stayed anyway.
3 months later, this money is in. We're courting and looking for a lead. We do find a lead. 5 months after this money comes in from Japan, the lead money comes in. This is money coming in very timely. We're months away from really being in a tight spot. The Canadian government came through for us again, a group called the Canada Growth Fund, a brand new fund. Their very first investment, their very first deployment of capital was into us. And that swung us into a really good spot where that one problem started to kind of fade. And we could really set in and go after what we were trying to do. Develop the technology. We're now building at Garrett's Reed.
If I were to pick one day where I felt like I'd almost made it, it would be the day that I went to the inauguration at the Garrett's Reed site. Minister Olaf Scholz got up there with this speech about what he thinks the Everloop potential could be for the geopolitical crisis in Germany. It wasn't until I heard his speech and how supportive he is and how much they really want this thing to work that it hit me like this solution that we've been working on could actually solve the energy crisis.
And in a way, this is what started 7 years ago. The plan was have a system, have a technology that you could protect, that you could get a head start, grow it, demonstrate it. The market is massive and obvious. Be the group that everyone looks to go and get it done. And it really all came together.
I think the thing that's also different about this particular company, the farther it goes along and the longer we do it, the more there's this mission that at the start was just sort of an argument as to why our product was good, but becomes something more than just making money. It becomes an opportunity to change the world. It impacts everything. It has the capability of giving people and countries and towns and villages everywhere energy independence, autonomy, resilience. And if you can provide independence, then that changes politics, and politics changes society. All of a sudden, the whole ball of wax is right there. And then that becomes, you can only consume so much money. That then becomes the motivator, the self-actualization. I've never had a startup like that. I've never been involved in something like that. It's hard to plan something like that. That's the awesome bit of it.
Entrepreneurs need to somewhat be detached from what it's supposed to be, the way it's supposed to go, the right way. It's not just no quitting. You need to have an incredible amount of resilience to move forward. And if you listen for one moment to somebody, a detractor, especially if you're doing something totally no one's ever done before, and every once in a while you do. I've got caught up in it. You get caught up in it once in a while. You got to push those off. This team, we are the best in the world at building Everloops. And we are also the very worst. When no one's ever done it before, there is no measuring stick. This is doing it the wrong way right. That's what we've done here, and we have to continue to do it. And the more people that tell us we're doing it the wrong way, what I'm finding with this group is that pushes them all to go even farther. There's some extra value, I think, that we're all getting by proving that the wrong way was the right way.
That's a wrap.
Okay.
Thank you.
You want to go mic up the wife and see what she has to say?